All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to LEAD54's Visa Strategy session. Firstly, let's talk about LEAD54. LEAD54 is a community of high-performing Africans who are trying to get their MBAs from top MBA programs in the United States. Top, not just top, any MBA program of your choice. And what we do here is we try to pick up all of the challenges that the people before you have had. We put it in a playlist or a playbook, and we ensure that we put the solutions there so that the guys that are coming after us don't have to deal with the same issues. Somebody needs to put structure to it, because once there's structure and there's data, then it's easier for people to navigate these challenges as they come against these challenges. Now, what we do here as well is to ensure that whatever services or whatever information or whatever guidance that we give here, our goal and our dream is to make sure that what you get here is more valuable than whatever you get anywhere else, even if you paid for it out there, and even if we're giving it out for free, to ensure that our community remains a trusted, safe space for everyone who is trying to navigate this complex journey. I'll try to look at my screen here as often as possible to see if anybody's asking any questions or if anybody's raising hands to ensure that we can get to those questions in good time. You will be able to use the Q&A feature for now, and hopefully you'll be able to chat as well. I'm not sure if chat is enabled at this time, but that's just to ensure that we can focus and get the best out of this session. If you have a question, please raise your hand and I will ensure that you are picked so that you can ask a question. So let us get started. So you can see that at the top of, on top of our screen, the first thing here you see is the power of storytelling. And I'm going to just, pause for a second and talk about that. The United States and the culture that they have is heavily built on storytelling. Everything about them is storytelling. From the moment that you are applying for the MBA, your essays, your interviews, it's all storytelling. Tell me about a time when, matter of fact, over 70% of people that interviewed for the MBA have found themselves talking about other things aside the real MBA story during their interviews. They have a lot of small talk, and it's quite interesting because the interviewer wants you to feel very comfortable and, get to chat to know you. From their perspective, the best way to know someone is to chat them up. It's entirely different from all the other visa processes that you've been through around the world. In the UK and the Eurozone, for example, those guys prefer paperwork. They're paperwork driven. You would put in all your paperwork, and they're very good at analyzing them and coming to conclusions. It's different with the US. 99% of the times, the visa officer will never ask you for any documentation. They're focused on having a conversation with you and trying to understand who you are. Now, I'm not sure entirely how many of them are trained psychologists, but I can definitely tell you that they're all trained properly. Even the admissions officers that you have been dealing with are properly trained. We felt that it's unfair for you to go into that battle without being trained. And that's the reason why we're doing this. So the power of storytelling is something that you must understand that is very key in this process. And the way you start telling your story from the first interview matters. Some people will get their visas approved the first time. That's okay. But if you get your visa refused the first time, the way you told your story the first time and how you connect it the next time matters. Because visa officers always document everything that you say. As you're speaking and you see them typing on the screen, they're documenting what you have said to ensure that the next visa officer that will be interviewing you, that's if you're refused, will be able to make decisions, informed decisions, knowing what you have said the last time. So panning away from the things that you have said before and going into an entirely new story is not exactly something that is advisable if you are applying a second time. Usually, some people would get their visas approved the first time, others will get it the second, third, fourth. I've seen some people get it the fifth time within the same year and within the same F-1 visa interview cycle. What's our power in LEAD54? Nobody has a silver bullet for you to be able to get the visa. There's no one shot kills all. Everybody's story is different, and things continue to change on a yearly basis. But what do you get from here? What you get from here is access to data. We've done this for the fourth year now. This is the fourth year that we've been doing this, and what we notice is that we're able to gather an enormous amount of data for people that have been going through those processes. And even as they start, we're beginning to pick up data from people left and right, those that got approved, those that did not get approved. And we're able to quickly pick up some insights that we can continue to share with the rest of them that are still trying to go on the journey. That is always incredibly helpful when we all stay together and continue to learn from the stories that we are picking up. While you might not be able to pick up the real story from one of your colleagues, those colleagues trust us with their stories, and we can anonymize the data and the story and ensure that we pick out, the important information there, and we're able to guide others accordingly. So I'm going to share again so we can go through all of the topics that we want to talk about today. Your story architecture, your past, which will be your career progression and achievements, the way you communicate it matters. That's something you must ensure that you master. The present, which will be why MBA is the next logical step, is something that you must be very, very clear on how to communicate. Let me pause for a second and say, if you're not the type that knows how to communicate your thoughts properly, I'd say that, in the next few days, next few weeks, try to take a little course on YouTube, maybe the art of storytelling, or the art of communication to ensure that you're able to communicate your thoughts properly. While you're speaking to your colleagues in the office, at times you think that you're communicating properly. The other person just might not be tracking as much as you think that you're communicating. Talk not of the cultural difference between you and the visa officer. You want to ensure that you're being very concise, very clear, and without, any iota of doubt that this is what you're trying to say. So taking a course on that is not actually overdoing anything. You're just ensuring that you are preparing properly. The visa officers that are about to interview you have been trained. Some of them trained for 2 years before they were deployed the first time. And while they get there as well, they continue to be trained. They continue to learn from their senior colleagues, and they continue to learn how to move from left to right in the middle of every interview, before the interview and post the interview. So you taking a communication course and ensuring that you are very, very clear as you communicate is not, overtraining yourself. I think that you're just, putting yourself in a good position to communicate better. And those skills you will need as well when you get to the United States, because you're now going to be speaking to a lot of people that do not understand your idiosyncrasies. They don't understand your facial expressions, what they mean. A good example is, in Africa, when we want to say yes, we do a nod. In India, when they want to say yes, they nod like the way we say no. So those cultural differences are going to be in place. So you must be able to ensure that you learn how to communicate clearly and in a way that someone from another cultural background can easily understand you. In the future, you must communicate your future plans. The plans must be clear, and what opportunities you have in your home country. And that's because you must show ties to your home country. And as we talk about ties, we're talking about strong ties to your home country. And I can easily go into more details around this. As we talk about the ties to your home country, we're talking about things like, you have family in your home country, like nuclear family members. right? Your wife, your kids, those are strong ties. You have a business that is doing well that you're going to return to, those are strong ties. And how you communicate them matter as well. You have a good job that is paying well, and that job is secured in such a way that you can return to that job when you come back from the MBA. That's a good tie. Another good tie is maybe you are clear that right after the MBA, you have proof as well that a particular job will be waiting for you in another organization. That's a strong tie. Knowing that you will return is something that gives the visa officer comfort towards thinking about giving you that visa. Have you ever noticed that the guys in the entertainment sector hardly get denied? That's because of the culture of the Nigerian musicians always coming back to Nigeria, because Nigeria is the core of what they do. That's where their investments are. That's where their immediate audience are. That's where they make the music. That's where they export the music to the rest of the world. And that's the reason why they hardly deny people in that space, except something else is wrong. Another set of people that they hardly deny are the politicians, because they know that the core of what they do is in Nigeria. The first thing that the visa officer is thinking about is this person going to return to Nigeria if I approve this visa? Is this person going to return to Ghana if I approve this visa? Is this person going to return to the United Kingdom if I approve this visa? And we're going to touch the topic of going to apply for your visa from another country as well. Hopefully we're able to do that, or hopefully somebody brings that up if we forget to address it, because that's a very important topic and that's a trend that we're beginning to see as well. All of the tips that you need in that space to ensure that you are doing what you should be doing. Understanding what to do and having the right tips is very, very key before you do your first interview. Because once you get your first interview done, you have laid a foundation that is going to be very hard to erase. Your second interview would restrict you from changing your story entirely. You've already set that story. If you change the story entirely, it looks like you're misrepresenting yourself and you're making things worse for yourself. So it's very important to ensure that the storyline that you're putting across in your first interview, even if you're not getting the visa during that time, is put in such a clear and concise manner and well put together in such a way that your next interview is only going to be doing better. Year on year, I would have a separate group called the Visa Denial Strategy Group. And usually what I do in that space is to help them overturn their visa denials. That's what I do best, to overturn visa denials. And some of the common things that I've seen in that space is that some people have already complicated their cases in the first interview in such a way that it becomes really difficult for them to overturn that denial. Your financial narrative, the source of your funds, your family business background, your scholarship achievements, your personal savings journey. I should also emphasize that here, maybe your loans as well should matter. The visa officer is listening to all of this to plot everything together and make a decision like, okay, based on what I hear, is this person likely to come back? If you forget everything that I say today, please remember that every question that is asked in a visa interview, especially the F-1, is asked for the visa officer to determine if you will return. So some questions may be sub of other questions, but at the end of the day, they are checking, is this person legitimate and is this person going to return? So a good example is you have your fees as $100,000 per year. You have gotten scholarship of $50,000 per year. So you have a deficit of $50,000. Now you have taken a loan of $30,000, for example, per year. And then you're saying that you will be paying $20,000 yourself. Remember that the visa officers that are interviewing you, especially if you're interviewing from Nigeria or from the country that you leave, that you've lived, the visa officer there most likely understands the landscape, most likely understands what the average person earns. I'm using Nigeria as an example. These visa officers live in Nigeria. They understand what the quality of life is. They understand what a great job in Nigeria is earning. Many of them are out, hanging out and clubbing as well in the same places that you go. The only difference is that you do not know that they are visa officers. Our people are also very generous about information. When you go on Twitter and Instagram, there's nothing that is hidden. Nigerians put everything out there. So these guys have more intel about your situation, about your economic situation, and Nigeria generally more than you do. So if you say that you are a product manager, you work in Nigeria, and that you are earning $20,000 annually, there's a high probability that the visa officer will feel like, you are embellishing your story. I don't want to say that you're lying, or maybe you're misrepresenting a little bit. Because the average product manager in Nigeria most likely is not earning $20,000 per year. Even if we use $1,000 as the exchange rate, $20,000 comes to, I'm not going to say that nobody earns like that, but the average person doesn't earn like that, right? So you need a bit more context to ensure that you make that clear to them. Oh, this is where I work. This is where I work. Another problem is some people believe that because you have gotten into a top school is going to be an easy ride for you. No. Getting into a top school is not an automatic visa approval. Many people made that mistake. I made the mistake as well, thinking that, oh, I got into a top school. I got into Duke. It's just going to be easy. Go out there and they're going to give you the visa. Even if it's okay to think like that, because the amount of work that you've put in and the experience that the school has looked at to offer you that admission is great enough for a visa officer to be able to say that, okay, I'm going to take a bet on you. Unfortunately, their own rules just don't work like that. And in this process, there are a few things I want you to remember. There are a lot of unsaid and unwritten rules. Unsaid and unwritten rules. You get there, you got into a top school, and you have a certain, aura. You have a certain way you're carrying yourself in front of the visa officer just because, maybe you're being a little arrogant. That can be very, very detrimental because the visa officer's decision is final. The law says that they have the final say. And what does that mean? That means that the president of the United States cannot overturn the the decision of the visa officer. So you must ensure that, you're not overdoing it and you're not underdoing it. Do not oversell yourself and do not undersell yourself. Try to find a way to stay in the middle. It's a hard thing to do, but, it's something we have to do. Your loans as well. If the loans are looking too big, this is where many people miss it. If it looks too much, then it's hard for the visa officer to believe that you will return. Now, the question is not that if you will not be able to pay it. Say, for example, you have loans up to $140,000 for your whole MBA. Don't forget that you're trying to convince the visa officer that you're going to return to your country. So if you are returning to your country, how much are you going to be earning in local currency for you to be able to afford to pay off $140,000 in the near 10, 15 years? Those are areas that it is really going to be difficult to, argue that. While this is a safe space, and I know that many of us do not want to return, and it makes sense for you to still take that loan if you are going to be getting a job in a market like this in the US, because now you're going to be able to afford it, you're going to be able to earn in dollars and earn in a way that you can pay back. Unfortunately, you can't communicate that to the visa officer. That's not something the visa officer wants to listen to because the visa officer's goal is to ensure that you're returning to your country. And while you return to your country, you're going to have the ability to pay back that money. And if you say that my father is going to be paying $20,000 out of my fees, the next question they're asking you is, what does your father do for a living? They want to put that in context to be able to understand that, yes, this person can pay. So saying things like, oh, my dad is, the chief supply chain officer for Total EMP, that makes sense. My dad is a CIO for that bank, that makes sense. My dad is a member of the House of Representatives, he's a politician, that makes sense. But some of us have our dads doing like very humble type professions. So if I say something like, oh, my dad is a military officer or my dad is a civil servant, it makes the visa officer struggle to understand how your dad is going to be able to pay that money, and you're beginning to open up something that they might be thinking is a lie, even if your father has saved that money time over time. Do you have a family business? Do you have real estate? And please don't forget, I might forget to mention this, but do not ever raise your hand to give paperwork except they ask for it. The sign of desperation, you will be denied. Go with your paperwork, hold them with you. The officer will never ask, but if they ask, you can bring it out. It's with you to give you the confidence as you speak, because you have those things with you. It has an effect on how you speak. You're going to be speaking very, very confidently because you have them. If they've not asked for it, do not bring it out and trying to shove it in. Because, again, these guys are psychologists. They're looking at your body language and all of that. Your interview performance. Ensure that your hook is solid from the beginning. They ask, why MBA? Or why the United States? Everything you say should start with a solid line and ensure that you're connecting everything you're saying to the idea of returning to Nigeria. My name is Dio. If you'd asked me at the time that I was leaving with the knowledge that I have now, so why are you leaving for an MBA? Hey, I've been a tech person for a little over a decade. I've understood the technical side of the business as an entrepreneur. Now I'm trying to learn the business side of this. Or I'm trying to move from a B2C model to a B2B model, and I want to be able to speak the business language when I return and have the executive presence to drive the kind of deals that I'm looking to drive. That makes sense. That sounds purposeful. Not just why MBA in the US. Oh, I like the US. I just want to go out there to study. There must be something. You must tie it to something. Tie it to something, end up tying it to a problem that you're coming back to fix in Nigeria or in Ghana. You're applying from Ghana. You are what? A microbiologist. For your undergrad, you studied microbiology, and maybe you've been working in that space, and now you want to do an MBA. Why an MBA now, and why the United States? Look, there's a lot of structuring that needs to happen in the Ghanaian market, in the Ghanaian medical space. I have studied this for a while, and it looks like for me to be able to get the kind of funding that I need business knowledge, and I need to be able to present myself in a better way. I need to be able to have the business language. I need to speak the MBA language to the community that I'll be speaking to, and particularly to come back and put structure around all of these things that I'm trying to, fix. I have talked about a problem. I have talked about what I'm getting from the United States, and I've indirectly mentioned that I'm coming back. So you wanna be professional, but also have like a little, warm demeanor as well. Uh, your natural document references, references. You're talking about those things. Oh, they say, do you have um, ties in your home country? Or they say, oh, there are other ways to check for ties in your home country, and they will ask you like this: what are your post MBA plans? What are you planning to do after your MBA? That's a trick question, right? Even if I know that yes, there are internship opportunities in the United States or OPT or whatnot, focus on what you'll be doing when you return to Nigeria. What are your post MBA plans? Oh, right in the middle of the MBA, I must have taken some internship that helps me understand how to consult and bring that consulting experience to my business in Nigeria, where I'm building a tech consulting company. My post-MBA goal is to actually return with that fresh knowledge and hit new industries and be able to scale the existing customer wallet, retaining, having better customer retention and scale towards other industries, right? You must speak towards returning back to your home country. Your clear articulation and confidence as well. Please be confident, be articulate. Don't panic. Keep it calm. Keep it chatty. Remember as well that the cultures are different, very, very different. So at times, some things, even if the visa officer has stayed there for a while, some things might still be new, or it might be a new visa officer. So ensure that when you're speaking about some things that might be a little out of, what they might understand, put a little bit of context. A good example is who is paying for your fees. And you say, oh, my uncle is paying my fees. In Nigeria or in Africa, that's normal. In the United States, that's not normal. You hardly even find parents who are paying their children's college fees. Most people get college loans, talk not of an uncle paying, so that can be a little, so I would say differently. Say, oh, who is paying your fees? My uncle is paying my fees. That's something that we do here in Nigeria. It's a cultural thing. And I look forward to paying for my nephews and nieces at the right time as well. Something like that, right? You're immediately putting context, ensuring that these people understand that you know what you're saying and you're driving the conversation in a way that matters. As I talk about confidence, I would also like to talk about appearance. On the day of the interview, there's no reason to be overdressed. Do not be overdressed, except it's part of your day-to-day work. Maybe some of you might be coming from the office. Maybe you're an investment banker and you have to be dressed in sharp suit all the time. Fine. As a lady, your heels, making noise, attracting attention. As you get into the interview space, you get on the queue. As you're moving, everybody's looking back, hearing come, 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 come. That can indirectly put pressure on you. I'm not saying that that's anything wrong, but that can put pressure on you. It can put pressure on others. It can put an attention on you. The visa officers from their booth can be looking like, okay, who is that person? And they might already have like a premise before you come to the booth. I would say that, keep it normal. Do not underdress. Do not overdress. If you're not an investment banker, dressing, in a smart, casual outfit is okay. Except you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to emphasize certain things. A good example is maybe you're someone who has like a fashion business, right? You are into fashion designing and whatnot. It's okay for you to have some of your crafts showing on you, right? That's okay. But apart from that, you are a tech guy. There's no reason why you are wearing agbada or anything like that. Treat this thing as normal, like, as you would treat when you were going for your JAMB interview, right? Or your WAEC, right? You didn't dress totally, you didn't overdress and you didn't underdress, right? Just something comfortable that looks smart, sharp, and sweet. Your storytelling elements, specific details and examples if the time allows. Ensure that you are delivering the biggest punchlines first, because 99% of the times visa officers cut you halfway because they also have a target. They have a time limit that they're trying to put together, right? Like, so a good example, or let me make this clearer. The average visa officer interviews about 120 to 130 people per day. And this visa officer does not want to spend their break time or overtime on you. So they're trying to ensure that they get through as quick as possible. That brings the average interview per person to around 2 minutes. Those would be the most defining 2 minutes of your life. I understand that there can be pressure from that perspective, but you must go in there with a good fight. Ensure that you are delivering the most sensible value first. Do not start trying to set the pace when they ask you a question. A good question or a good example is, why are you looking into an MBA now? There's no reason why you should start with, oh, I'm looking into an MBA now, because you've wasted 3-4 seconds. You don't have to do that. Why are you thinking of an MBA now? You can go straight into the answer. I'm thinking of getting my business acumen up, sharpening my communication skills, and having more structure towards solving problems. An MBA brings me that. Right? You've already given the value directly. There's no reason why you should repeat that over and over again. And this is not something that I expect that you'll be able to get used to in a day. So practicing that from now is very helpful. While I'm speaking, let me quickly talk about excuse me. Let me quickly talk about some things that would be making available to you in this community. Those that were in our community last year already know that we have an AI-powered visa officer on our website that allows you practice the visa interview, and all of the African bias has been built into it, right? So it's going to ask you questions like you would, see in the real visa interview. Playing with that tool can help you get very ready for your interview. It can help you understand the kind of questions that will come, and it can also give you feedback on how to answer those questions. We're seeing as well that, there might be some restrictions around, I don't know, geolocation or whatnot, but the best browser to use for that will be the Opera browser. If you use a regular browser and it's not popping up, use the Opera and you should be able to use it. It's right on our website. If you're a member on our website, you will see F1 mock interviews. Just click and you'll be able to play with that. Sometime this week, we will release another innovative product, which is going to be in form of a game. We will deploy a game for you that in the middle of your day, while you're in traffic, while you're doing anything, you can keep playing that game, and indirectly the game will give you the muscle memory of what you should be thinking about during the visa interview. It helps you understand the whole overview and what the visa officer is trying to get to and how to present yourself the best way. So if you've not registered on our website, please ensure that you do that. If you're not following us on social media, please ensure that you do that. Follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. We also have a YouTube page. As the visa session continues to happen, we will be putting updates on there. We will try to have office hours and see if we can have maybe 3 days of the week where we'll have 1 hour in the evening. If you want to ask questions about your visa that you're about to jump onto the next day, or if you've been refused visas and you want to know what next to do immediately, or if somebody is trying to ask you to come and pay some amount of money out there and you just want to revalidate that before paying, fine. I'm not going to say that you shouldn't pay people, but ensure that you understand the value of what you're going to be paying for before you pay for it. Some people would always ask me, "Oh, is it okay to pay these former visa officers for their services?" I would say yes. Go ahead and gather every information you can gather. But when you're going to speak with a former visa officer, you're going to be wasting your money if you do not understand the right questions to be asking or the best way to utilize that session. Don't forget that each one of them is charging an average of about $500 for a 30-minute to 45-minute with them. It's just going to be on Zoom. Once you have that 30 to 45-minute session, that's it. You're never going to be able to reach them again except you pay again. Okay? So remember that and ensure that you gather the right questions and you're asking the right questions while you are in those sessions. And some people have also DM'd me a couple of times to say, hey, look, we know that you provide these services for free in the community. How do we get your own personal time to consult one-on-one with me? The thing is, I try to provide everything that you need in this community. Myself and my colleagues try to give you everything that you might not need to pay for anything. But if you're going to have, maybe you have a very, very complex case and you want to, schedule something special, that's something we can talk about. I'm going to be putting some extra time of mine into that, so we can talk about that later. But we will ensure that everybody has the sufficient amount of information that they need here without having to pay. Let me also warn, I made a video about this as well. You would listen to a lot of tips online and even in this session. Remember that the things that I say here, do not go ahead and say it the same way, because if you go ahead and say it the same way, the visa officers can tell the trend. All of you are saying the same thing in the same manner. It becomes really annoying and they think that there's some sort of conspiracy, right? So they're beginning to check your legitimacy over and over again. Whatever tips you hear, get the information and try to communicate it in your own way as much as possible. So your storytelling elements, specific details and examples, cultural bridge elements, ensure that you understand the difference between your culture and the person you're speaking to's culture, right? So that you can bridge the cultures properly. Industry knowledge, ensure that you understand your industry properly as a subject matter expert. You cannot say that you are a business consultant and they're asking you, okay, what are some of the things you think about when you're thinking about uh, a merger, right? An M&A deal, for example, right? Like you should be able to say something, even if it's not into specifics. You should say something. So understand your industry. I don't have any problem here with you guys. I believe that most of you are you're captains of your industries, so I don't have a problem with that. And then the future contribution plans. I keep mentioning this, like what are your plans in the future? Ensure that you're tying your plans back to your home country. Stories to avoid: uncertain future plans, right? Weak home country ties. You must identify what's weak and what's not weak, right? Over rehearsed responses. You must try to sound as natural as possible, right? That's what I was saying, that, you don't want to be sounding robotic, because taking something that I said and everybody's saying it the same way, it can be very robotic. You must apply it to your own situation. Everybody's story is different. So you must apply it to your own situation and ensure that you communicate it well. And negative home country portrayal. You must not portray your home country negatively, because you are giving a vibe of, I don't want to come back here. A good example is, oh, why the NBA? The Nigerian space is so bad that there's nowhere to learn things like this. You're already giving a negative, a perspective or a negative portrayal of your country. You don't want to do that, right? Ensure that you're speaking positively, even if the knowledge that you want is not in your country at the time. You can turn that into something interesting. Oh, I'm not able to learn this at this time. That's why I want to learn from the US and return to ensure that other people can learn from what I have learned, because I couldn't find it here. I want others to be able to find it here. One of the interesting stories that someone talked about last year was to say that she wants to put some structure around uh, childbirth in Nigeria to reduce mortality rate, to reduce the rate at which women are looking for better medical treatment during childbirth abroad. Right, those are some of the things that will resonate with the visa officer and be like, okay, you're solving a problem, right? So ensure that you have a structure when you're telling your story. There must be a problem that the MBA is going to be solving, and that problem, you must be willing to return to come and solve that problem, right? Even that problem can be your home ties because of the potential revenue that you can make from solving that problem, if that makes sense. So I'm going to stop here and try to see if there are any questions so that we can actually dive into those personal questions better. Raise your hand and let's see if you have questions. I see some questions in the Q&A. I'm going to deal with one question in the Q&A, then I'm going to take someone raising his hand, and then I'll go to Q&A as well. The question here is, can you say your dad would cover the interest expenses during your study period if you are using Empower? Do you think Empower is a deal breaker? Okay, let me quickly say this. Because we're trying to understand everything in this space, we have we've brokered some good partnerships, right? We have a partnership with Empower, we have a partnership with Prodigy, and what we're trying to do is to understand that space and be able to advocate for you better in a case where they're giving you some sort of stress as regards the requirements for you to get your loan approved, or maybe you're just trying to speak to them for anything. Like, so if you so we're not getting anything, you're not paying anything extra by going to them through us. It's just structure. We have a relationship with some of their members of staff, so we can hold them accountable better and say, hey, look, this person needs this. So you're going to get results faster. So if you've not applied yet for your loans and you already have an admission, please reach out to us in the group, actually in our WhatsApp group, there is a link, a Calendly link there for you to schedule a session for you to apply for your loans through us, right? So that's going to be done for you, easy and fine. Now, you say, can your dad say can you say that your dad will cover the interest expense? Well, it's becoming a little bit more complicated, right? I'm not saying you can't say that. It's how you deliver it, right? If you deliver it in a way that it makes sense, yeah, why not? But if I'm the visa officer, I'm thinking like, why is your dad covering just the interest expense? Who is covering the capital, right? Are you covering the capital? And how is that done, right? And if your dad is focusing on the interest expense, are you looking to elongate the loan so much that interest expense might be an issue that you need to be helped with? I don't know. Like, it depends on how you deliver it, right? You just need to deliver it in a way that makes sense. Oh, we have a family business. I'm returning to my dad's business to, take on a role as a business strategy consultant. And as part of the deal, my dad's company is taking on all of the interest on my loans as I use my salary to, you know, um, pay up the capital of my loan, right? Or the principal, rather, of my loans, right? So that makes sense. It depends on how you deliver it, right? So I don't think that there is a silver bullet, Barakat. I'm going to take the person raising hand. Oh, he has dropped his hand. Please raise your hand again if you wanted to ask a question. I can't remember who wanted to ask a question. Please raise your hand again and I will call you. So I have answered that. Next, is there an advantage to going to, let's say, Cape Town for your visa interview from Ghana? And how can I use that to my advantage? Okay, so that's a good question, right? So it depends on how you are able to communicate the reason why you are in Cape Town, right? So if you're going to go to Cape Town, there must be a reason because the visa officer will ask you, oh, why didn't you apply from Ghana? Now, your response to that question is what will make or break you. Okay, so if you say something logical, oh, I'd like to do it in Ghana, but at this time, it's just hard to get dates. Or I would have loved to do it in Ghana, but logistically, it's tough for me because I'm also having a work training here in Cape Town and I decided to put everything together in one place, right? So it's the way that you handle that question that matters. It's not about if it's right or wrong. Naturally, the United States don't care about who applies from any part of the world. Many people had the impression before now that you have to have the permanent residence of the country that you're trying to apply from. Those things don't apply to the United States. They don't care about that. You get in, you do your interview, and you are out. So yes, I had some people do Cape Town last year. Again, that's another question that's another reason why our community thrives so much. We have a lot of information, people give us feedback, and we had details around so that our perspective around traveling abroad really changed last year, because before last year we were thinking that, look, if you've been denied in Nigeria, if you go anywhere else, they're not going to approve it because the guys in Nigeria have already denied you. Even while that's logically true, we've seen that proven wrong last year, because many of the guys who were denied in Lagos, Nigeria last year were able to overturn those denials from Cape Town or from Cote d'Ivoire or some of those countries that, they don't have a lot of traction with the US Embassy, right? So please, I'm not sure if this question has been answered or been asked. How do you answer the question about plans on repaying loans if you are coming back to pursue entrepreneurship? So this question is better answered based on whatever entrepreneurship, whatever you're doing, whatever your business is, right? Like, again, like, there's no silver bullet, right? Your unique situation is what will inform how you answer this question, right? For me, when I was going for the MBA, For me, when I was going for the MBA, okay, so those are the results from our polls. Those are the results from our polls. Now, there are when I was answering that question as an entrepreneur, when I was going for my MBA, I made it clear that paying the loans back is not going to be a big deal because returning to Nigeria with an MBA puts me in the room with more people that can give me a bigger revenue for my, in my business, right? And from there, I have more control on my revenue and I'm able to pay back as much as I can. And also my situation was different because, at the time when I was applying for the F-1, my company was doing well. I had good revenue streams and I was very confident in telling that story, even if they didn't have to ask me for uh, paperwork to show anything. Once something is true, the way you speak about it is always very confident. You speak very confidently when something is true, or when you have paperwork to prove something. You just speak very confidently. So it depends on your particular situation. As we get closer to visa interviews, we will continue to have sessions where I would be with you all and we will look at your stories and we would, listen to your stories and refine them properly. When those sessions start, I want to make it clear as well now that when those sessions start, we would prefer that people be on video, right? Those sessions will be in a Zoom meeting, not in a webinar. I know that here we have close to about 100 people here, but in the meetings, you would be able to, it's more intimate. We can discuss, we can learn from each other, and video is required. So please ensure that you put yourself in a position where you can be on video. And that's to show respect to the other people that will be telling their personal stories. People can't be talking about their personal stories and, you are somewhere without video on and we can't tell where you're at, right? In the past, someone had been talking about her personal story. Somebody that knew somebody in her office had listened and had gone to tell them, in her office that she's doing this and that and that and that. Remember that a lot of people are, putting this on the wraps. Talking about office, I remember as well that I mentioned that you must understand that resigning is something that you must do carefully. You cannot resign until you are sure that you got the visa. While I understand that there are some ethical boundaries that you need to keep. You need to resign 2 months ahead or 3 months ahead. While those are true, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you have resigned, you have paid your down payments, $2,500, $3,000, and then you get rejected the visa. There's nothing that brings you closer to depression than that. People that did that last year can tell you better. And now I'm not telling you to quit your job just a few days before you travel. That's unethical as well. How you navigate that space is up to you. Maybe there's something that, your office will expect you to do if you are disengaging almost immediately. Maybe you're supposed to return some money or whatnot. Just ensure that you do that. But quitting your job before having the visa in your passport is a big mistake. A very big mistake. Please don't make that mistake and share our page with some of the people that you're going on this journey with so that you don't have to have people in your circle that will be dealing with depression when that time comes, because it's a very, very bad place to be in. You've paid all that money, you are broke, you don't have a job, you're not moving out for the MBA. There's no clarity around what you want to do next. So please ensure that you keep that in mind. All right. So someone has asked, Tosin has said that I was denied last year on my I-20. I had employer sponsorship of 15K, but after denial, I got a great job with a multinational and I had to leave the place of work. Cash flow reasons, majorly. Okay. Now I'm trying to go again for the interview this year, and I'm not going to be having that employer sponsorship again. I need advice on how to make my case look better and not be refused again. So again, this will be in some of our more intimate sessions so that we can dive deep into this case. So first things first, I want you all to remember that the way we see visa interviews is different from the way the visa officers see it. Don't forget that visa officer is looking for loopholes, looking for anything that might show that you won't return. So for those of you that work with firms that are multinational, and those firms have presence in the US, you must be careful around how you communicate, where you work, right? Don't overemphasize it. Say, for example, you work with Chevron. All right. Chevron is an American company, right? Um, the visa officer knows that if you get into an MBA, it's easier for you to get into Chevron in the United States and not return, because you've already been in Chevron in Nigeria, and they can internally just move you via an L1 or an EB1C. Okay, so you want to ensure that you are not exactly making it look like, I work with a multinational, this, that, 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 or some of you that have remote jobs and the company is in the United States. Those are red flags that you may not return. And why are they red flags? These companies can provide you a safe space and all the filing that you need to stay back in the United States, right? Should you communicate it? Yes, but it's the way you communicate it, right? Look for a way to tie it back to Nigeria. For example, I'm working with a company that is in the United States, and I'm in Nigeria doing like remote job for them. The way I'll communicate my role will be different. I'll say, hey, this company needs someone critical to handle this in Nigeria. And so far, there's been no one that's been able to do this. My job is to ensure that they continue to thrive in the Nigerian market or in the West African market. And I'm planning to help them grow into the whole West Africa, blah, blah, blah. Right? That sounds like, ties to your home, right? So, back to Tosin, the way you communicate this, first things first, the good thing, one red flag that I see in the case earlier, even if I've not listened too far, I may be wrong, but one red flag that I see is the multinational. It can be a red flag if you don't communicate it the right way. That's number one. Number two, I see that you got a new job and you got more money. That's good. Hopefully, the MBA program that you're going to give you more money this year as well. Because when you go for the interview, the only thing that the visa officer takes from you is your I-20 and your passport. All right. And if there is a change on that I-20, that's where your power lies. So if your last interview you had 50K in scholarship on that I-20, if this year you have 51K, that's proof that something has improved in your case. When you're going back to apply again, the visa officer needs to be able to put, let me say it this way. If a visa officer wants to overturn your visa denial, they need a reason to overturn the denial. And usually they must put a reason that this person's situation has changed. And usually the best way to show that situation has changed is usually financial reasons, right? The visa officer cannot exactly verify on the spot your new salary and all those things. But what they can verify is on the I-20, oh, this person's scholarship has changed from 50K to 70K. That's a considerable change in your situation. And that's the reason why when people get denied, the first thing I say to them is go back to your school and ask if they can give you more money. As we look at the other strategy, the other parts of the strategy, other data points that we need to put together, one strong thing is something that they will be able to see in the I-20 as they're looking at it, right? So it's good that you got a new job. That's going to be good for your story. But how we look into your case particularly is something that we're going to have a deep dive for. In the meantime, you can leverage the visa officer on our portal to play around and see what the visa officer says about your case. That visa officer does a good job. Is very, very, very like a real visa officer, right? So I hope I answered your question. Anonymous attendee, thank you very much for this session. How would you advise that we approach interview locations? I think I answered this question earlier. It's usually about, if you're going outside your country, what exactly has brought you there? Have a good reason. I'm not saying that, it's not allowed, but, just have a good reason, because they will throw that question at you. Some of you that are looking to go to the UK, the UK is now very, very strong around people coming out from other places to apply from the UK. They will grill you. And I'm not saying this like I think or they may. I am telling you that they will grill you. In fact, as you are trying to apply to the US Embassy in the UK, they are asking you already that are you coming to the UK for the sole purpose of this visa interview? And as we continue to stay close to the community, we will be able to share information as things get clearer and as we move closer to that time. Now, as regards unique countries like Nigeria that has 2 locations, the first thing you begin to see is pressure within your group. Let me tell you something. Being in groups, by now you would have started having WhatsApp groups of class of 27. Being in groups is great. Please, listen clearly. Please. If you don't believe anything I say or anything I've said today, please believe this. Groups are good to share information, but groups are bad when the information is not verified or not good info. Now, in groups, when linked to this video for this webinar comes out and they share it in your group, people will watch, right? The disadvantage of that is that everybody now understands what I've said, and everybody is very, very likely, people are not very creative, right? So everybody's very likely to go and say the same thing over and over again. And that just makes everyone sound so monotonous that the visa officers are beginning to question, like, I gave an example. A lady moves into a particular area. The second day you are going out, a guy steps up to you and he will ask you, say, hi, what's your name? The person is anonymous. Let's say person's name is Shade. Say, hi, Shade. I would like to speak to you for a second. I know that you just moved in. I know your name is Shade, and I know your friends call you Shade. You don't know me, but I just want to be your friend. And I want to help you understand this area as quickly as possible, help you know the do's and don'ts. If you need anything, let me know. I'd like to get your numbers, but I imagine that you might be a bit reluctant to give it out, and I'll understand if that is, but I can assure you that I'm not going to misuse it. And any day I misuse it, I'd, advise that you block me. So what's it going to be? The first thing you're thinking is, oh, this person has empathy, blah, blah, blah. This one gets sense. You give your number, right? Now, as you go out, as you're coming back in the evening, another guy steps up to you and says the exact same thing. Hi, Shadi. I know your friends call you Shade. I see that you just moved in 2 days ago, and I really like to help you ramp up on everything in this area. If there's anything that you need, let me know. I'd like to take your numbers, but I know that you might not want to give it out. I assure you that I'm not going to abuse it, and you can block me whenever, The next day you're going out, a third guy comes to say the same thing in the same order. At a point as a lady, you are beginning to get irritated and you are thinking there's something. Some people are plotting something. My enemies are at work, the village people. Because why are all these people saying this same thing in the same manner? Some people are planning against me. It might not be so. It might just be that boys were hanging out and you walked by and somebody asked, how far that be? That babe, I know that, she doesn't like nonsense. She doesn't like to give her numbers out. Just the last time I spoke to her, I know somebody that spoke to her. Person was just able to assure her that they won't use the number wrongly. Now, these people have come individually. They didn't plan, actually, but, you can tell that there's an area of commonality in the things that they're saying. And that's how it works with the visa officer, right? You guys are not communicating every day to know that, we're saying things that are alike. So the visa officer can see that, can plot that graph and can see that commonality. So you must ensure that you personalize your story. You must ensure that you say these things your way. Now, that's the first thing about groups. The second thing about groups is people don't tell the truth, though. They don't tell the truth. The first thing you will start seeing is pressure. There's date in Lagos, there's date in Abuja. Let's quickly book Abuja. Let's quickly book this. The US Embassy knows that people would apply for F-1 visas this year. And they will open dates for F-1 students at the right time. Some people have to go through a lot because they've gone through that pressure of, I'm in Lagos, but they are saying there are dates in Abuja. And then you go to Abuja, you have spent close to $500,000 on just flights, and then hotel, and then visa fees. Dates will still open in Lagos. Even if not immediately, please pace yourself the right way. If I was a visa officer and we're still very early in the journey, and I see that you flew all the way from Lagos to come and interview in Abuja, for me, that's a little red flag. Like, I'm thinking, one thing they're always looking at is this person desperate? Desperation shows that you are not going to return. That's the second thing. The third thing, which is the most dangerous part of it, if this is the only thing you remember today, I'm fine. People do not tell the truth about their situation. No. If this person was refused, they will come to the group and come and say, oh, I got rejected. This is why, blah, 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 blah. This person might not be telling the truth, but then you have taken that feedback and you have gone to use it to re-strategize your own story that is already perfect. And then you go and fall inside the same trap. Or maybe the person didn't do it purposely, because the visa officers don't tell you exactly why they are denying you. They just tell you that you don't qualify at this time. They don't tell you exactly why. So maybe you already goofed from the beginning and the person just thought, okay, let me just ask a few more questions. The person asked a few more questions, and then the last question the person asked is, okay, how are you paying back the loans? Oh, I have an Empower loan that blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay, no problem. Thank you very much. At this time, you don't qualify, blah, blah, blah. You will now carry it to the group and say everything was going well until I talked about Empower. They just said that, and then now people in the group would unknowingly go and start panicking and trying to turn down the Empower loan. Everybody is now going towards Prodigy and this and that. There's just chaos. Your colleagues may do it purposely or unknowingly. Your journey is individual. Individual. We are professionals. The average person in this journey already has years of experience. Some of you are senior managers with consulting companies in Nigeria and in Ghana. Some of you are senior managers in banks. When you see things that does not connect logically, please identify it. Don't just follow. And the average human being does not want to put him or herself out in the group in a bad light. So there may be some things that the person has done or that's about the person that will make the person look bad if the person puts the whole story there. And they just put their own story based on their perspective. They just put it there. Don't let that shake you or make you go and scatter all your plans. I just wanted to make sure that that's very clear, right? So this question says, how would you advise the approach to interview location? I just talked about it. Try to see what's available in your location. And then once you're getting maybe towards midway and there's still no dates, then you have leverage to say, oh, okay, let me look at other places and blah, 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 blah. Please avoid visa agents. Do not fill your forms with visa agents. The visa agent does not know who you are. Nobody tells your story better than you. It's so painful that, and this is not to blame anyone. I understand that it can feel like an uphill to get these visas, right? And these visa agents can sound like, because they work around the embassy, they have information. And then you let a visa agent, like I've spoken to a couple people in the past couple years, that is a visa agent that filled their DS-160. So a visa agent has gone and write in your DS-160 that you have 4 children, just because the visa agent has heard that you need to have home ties. Meanwhile, you are a single lady. He has gone to write that you have four children, you have this, you have that, in such a way that even if you now get the visa, you now begin to deal with certain problems when you get to the US. Do you know that when the visa officer even approves your visa, they write everything that you said in a small note? That's the same application that the entry officer uses. Border control. When you land, they will give you like a very short, brief interview. If your story does not match with what the visa officer said you said, that's where you start having problems. And that's where they can return you back home. So please, Don't work with visa agents. I beg you. As regards dates, somehow those guys have been able to, become wizards around, the dates. I don't have a say around that at this time, but please do not use them to fill your forms. Do not take strategic advice from them. They are not you. They are not half as educated as you are. They're not going out for an MBA. They didn't get the admission. You're the one who did. Prodigy is requesting for $500 before granting the loan. Is this the usual? Things are shifting a little bit, right? And I'm happy to have a conversation with Prodigy or even bring them into our community. If you guys will attend the session, I will bring them into our community and then you can ask them these questions directly, right? To ensure that we're being very clear. Why are they asking for $500, right? Before now, I wasn't sure. I'm not sure if they were asking before now, but I've heard it this time around that they're asking as well. We might be able to see what we can do, leverage our strength as a group of people and ask for professional treatment and say no, we're not paying $500. That might be a new strategy to be able to ensure that people that are using them are not just using them to get visas and move on. Because, again, some of our people are doing very amazing things, right? You use them to get your visa. They have calculated what their revenue will be for the year based on how much support and how much whatever that they've given out. And then you now just go and use something else, or you just cancel it after getting the visa. So as a business, there must be some sort of deterrence, right? But let's see if there's something else that they can leverage to get the assurance rather than the $500. Talking about $500, also you would need to pay the service fee. Service fee is usually around $350. You're not going to be able to pay it from outside the country. You will need someone to physically pay it for you here. While we used to help do that before now, I would say there are two ways you can do it. If you have someone in the US, the person can help you go out and pay it. Either a current student, a family member, a friend, anything can help you go and pay it. For us, there would be a little convenience fee attached to it to ensure that we're able to, step out to go and pay it for you. But if you don't have any extras to pay and you have people in the US, it's not a big deal. We'll also try to create a document around how the person who is supposed to pay for you, who may not understand how to go around the process, give you like a little one pager on how the person needs to navigate, where to go and pay and all of that. So yes, that has been answered. There's quite a lot of questions here. I'm not sure we're going to be able to take all these questions today. How can I join the WhatsApp group, Isaac? Isaac, we're actually going to be moving to Slack shortly, but please join our website, which will be www.lead54.com. I'm going to put it in the chat now. In fact, I'm going to allow everybody to be able to put messages in the chat. So that's going to be www.lead54.com. So when you join, because for 3 years now, we've kept our community safe. No fraud, no fraudsters, nothing. And the way we've been able to do that is that somebody must refer you before you join the community, number one. If nobody's referring you, it will be asking you to upload a government recognized ID just to ensure that we keep the space safe for everyone, nothing more, right? So we have a WhatsApp group and we're going to be moving to Slack again. Both of them will be live, and there's a lot of resources shared there, a lot of stories, a lot of personal stuff. So please, it's a good time to ensure that you register on lead54.com, put up a good profile, put up a picture and a little bio, and then you will be invited to WhatsApp group. There's somebody dedicated to checking your applications on the portal and ensuring that you are invited to WhatsApp and also Slack. Okay, Shegun, you're also asking about the WhatsApp. Shegun Ashaolu, that name sounds familiar. I used to have a friend in high school. His name is Shegun Ashaolu, a very naughty boy. But I'm sure this is not him. Anyway, Femi Toyo, Diana, thank you for doing this. I got rejected last year with 92K funding. This year I got into a much better program with 70K funding. Do you think, Femi, I know who you are. We're going to have to talk about this in our sessions, right? If I dive into this, we won't finish here. But let's look into this. And I'm hopeful that you have not rejected the offer for the school that gave you 92K last year. If you want to ask a question directly, please go ahead and raise your hand, though, please. I want to hear some people live. So, Femi, please, we'll talk about this. Adeyinka, is it possible to get approval on a Virgin passport, or do you have to travel to an African country? This is a good question. Please, people keep getting the wrong impression about travel history. The US don't care about those countries that you're trying to travel to in Africa, right? You can get your visa on a Virgin passport. Those countries you're going to in Africa does not answer the question that they're trying to ask when they are looking at travel history. The travel history that they're looking at is, have you been to like a first world country before? That's what they're trying to check. Say, for example, you've been to Germany, the UK, these places where the economy is better, and they're trying to check, okay, did you go to those places and you returned? That's a way to kind of weigh the risk. That is, this person, if this person goes to the US, will the person return or not? Somebody raised their hand and dropped it again. Why are you all shy? Raise up your hand and answer questions, and ask your questions. So, Adenika, I would say that if you want to do that for fun, yes, but I don't think particularly that that's a prerequisite. Please go ahead and ask your question, Adetunji.
Okay, yeah, thanks so much. Good evening. Please, can you hear me clearly?
I hear you loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I just wanted to verify that I think I heard it while I was on the road the other time. So I just wanted to confirm if, as part of your story during the visa interview process, you can mention the fact that you'll be doing an internship. I'm not sure if that's a red flag or it's something that is admissible.
So that's not an issue. The internship is part of the MBA program, right? So again, there's something else that we're putting together. We're putting together a whole storyline around what the MBA is all about on our YouTube page, so that you can know what to expect at every point in time. Okay, so the MBA, sorry, the internship is done in the middle of the MBA. Okay, so there's no how they can raise eyebrows about that, right? So either you want to come back to Nigeria or not, you must do the internship. The internship is in the middle of it's more like a 2-year program, and right in the middle, you must do the internship for 10 weeks or so. So that's not a red flag. That's part of the program. I don't see that as a red flag at all. So yeah. Next person will be Anonymous. You're raising your hand again, Tunji. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry. I was just trying to lower the hand, but thanks for the answer.
All right, good. Bello. Go ahead.
Hi there. Please confirm, can you hear me?
I hear you clear, Bello. I hear you.
Okay, yeah. So, just curious, if a person gets a really good funding, say fully funded scholarship or a very good percentage, and personal savings are kind of low, is that a red flag?
So say that again. Your personal savings are kind of low, but you got really good funding. Now,
Yep.
you've not given me context though. I need to see context. I need to see. It needs to be specific, right? Or really good funding can be a school like Michigan Ross that is not usually very, very generous, but they've given you 30K out of 100K. That can be really good funding. Or it can be a school that is very generous, like Rice MBA, right? Rice, maybe fees is 100K per year, and they give you $95,000 per year. That's really good funding. So you must give me more context so that we can solve the problem.
Okay, I mean, there's no context now. I'm just curious. Like, I just want to know.
Okay. So if you get good funding, then there's no reason to be focusing on your personal savings, right? So, for example, you get 95% funding, right? Aha. So why will I want to? What matters to the visa officer is that you can pay for the MBA, and your loans are in such a way that you can pay them back easily, and when you return, right? Because if you look at it, it's actually they're actually doing us good if truly we were returning to our country, right? If they see a loan of maybe $200,000, and they know that as you return, the best you can get, per year for your next role is say 24 million naira per year, and that's like 2 million naira per month, and that's less than $1,500 per month. That's going to be life changing. Like, how do you pay back that loan? Do you understand? So you must empathize. If you sit down and you try to understand what the visa officer is trying to achieve and what they're looking for, approaching this visa interview is going to be very easy. Okay. Next question. If you are currently living abroad, where would you say I will be returning to without creating a confusion? The US, they don't care about, where you return to. You just want to be sure that you leave their country. So if you're living in any other country, so you can ensure that your ties are in that country, because that's where you will be interviewing, right? So a good example is you're in the UK. Maybe you're on a highly skilled visa in the UK. You can use that as your story. Oh, look, I'm trying to get to this level, and this is what I'm going to be able to do when I return. So you can, as long as you're able to talk about something that brings you back, and that's fine. I'm going to be prioritizing those that are raising their hands, so that I don't have to, So go ahead. Didi, is this Didi? Sorry, Giddy. Giddy, come off
Hi.
here.
Yes. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Sure.
I just wanted to quickly ask if you have a relative abroad, specifically a sibling who is currently schooling abroad, is that likely to go against me in terms of communicating the fact that I will be returning back home, given that I have a relative there?
I just say,
Nyame adomo.
all right, good. I'm going to say that's a potential red flag. Okay. Having siblings abroad is a potential red flag. And it's something that you must be extremely careful around how you communicate or how you address that, right? And those are some of the things that we will do in our upcoming sessions as we dive into all of this, strategies. Because they believe that if you have someone in the US, the person will create a safe space for you not to return. So you must, have people done it successfully before? Yes. But you must, in your interview, as they keep asking you, do you have someone abroad? Yes. As you're saying yes, you must be following up with the reasons why that's not going to be a problem and why you're going to return. A good example is, do you have family abroad? Yes, I do. But they're not going to be an hindrance or a hindrance to my plans to return to do this and that and that. Or do you have family abroad? Oh, my brother, while he has a life where he's currently studying and planning to return to Ghana, I'm also planning to return to Ghana to ensure that the family business does not suffer, right? The visa interview might cut you off halfway, but, you'll still be able to, get some of it across. Let's check. Let's take just 3 more questions and we will call it a day. Whatever you do, please ensure that you look forward to the game that we'll be putting out. Ensure that you register so you can begin to practice with the visa officer on our portal. And ensure that you look out for the Slack channel that we'll be putting out, right? Do I need to take any documents with me if my dad is sponsoring part of my fees? Have all documents with you. You never know how the interview will go. Maybe 1 out of a billion times is you that they will now ask that day that, oh, do you have a document for this? So always carry all your documents, and it also helps your confidence when you speak. Isaac, how do you address the issue of loans during your interview? while still trying to convince the officer you plan to return? I think I already answered this question, right? And we can talk about it some more when we get into our sessions. If you have a family member who is based in the US, but is with a different name, a step uncle, is that fine? Is this fine to be your sponsor or would raise red flag? It will raise a red flag if the person is sponsoring you, that's sponsoring you is in the US, because it can seem like the person will give you a safe space not to return. But when we talk about, do you have family in the US? Uncle is not one of them, right? They're only focusing on father, mother, and siblings, okay? Your cousins, no, you don't have family. That's not your family. Can you guys please speak to Prodigy Finance, the 500, whatever. Again, please try to apply through us and let's see how far we can do solve this problem. In our WhatsApp group, there's a link. And if you can put the link in the chat, that'll be helpful. The link for them to book sessions with us for their loans. So either for Prodigy or Empower. Another thing I forgot to mention is as you begin to travel around Lagos, Abuja, and back, we have good partnerships with the airlines so that we can reduce the cost of travel for you, because we understand that Nigeria now is not smiling, right? So let's either reduce the cost of travel or make it flexible, last minute changes, all those things. We also have some good partnerships with hotels in Lagos and in Abuja. We're thinking about where we're getting into the Accra side of things this week to see how many airlines and how many hotels we can work with to ensure that our people can leverage these resources. We also will have a chauffeur in Abuja and in Lagos that might be able to help you guys move from airport to your location, because now we're hearing that 35,000 naira to from the airport to your hotel in Abuja, all that. If we can leverage economics of scale and be able to work with someone that we have recommended, even if it's small money we can save you, we're happy to do that. Okay, so please remember that. And in the group, we'll put details of how to do that, how to get all of these discounts. Just drop a message in the group, or make sure that you join our community on lead54.com. Enola, are you here? Is visa officer likely to ask for business certificates? Yeah, if you can help me get the link to the Calendly sessions for loans.
I'm working on that.
All right, thanks. Is the visa officer likely to ask for business certificates if one claims to own a business? My village people are calling me. Okay. Is the visa officer likely to ask for business certificates if one claims to own a business in their home country? While they may not ask for documentation on the spot, you want to tread carefully. I never advise anyone to lie in this process, because if you are caught in a lie, that's a 10-year ban. You are better off being denied and trying again next year than being banned for 10 years. So if you really have that business, I would say yes, talk about it, and they may not ask for the paperwork. But if they go and put you on administrative processing, that means that they want to verify and do background checks, and you never know, right? You might assume that it won't happen and it happens, right? So I've answered that. The questions keep coming. I'm going to just take 3 more and that's it. How can you prove home ties if I'm currently in Ghana and also have a Canadian PR in the pipeline? Do I prove home? Don't talk about this Canadian PR. It's even in the pipeline, right? Don't talk about it, right? Please just leave it there. Focus on what you're doing in Ghana. Make them feel you're coming back to Ghana, because the moment you mention about that PR, it shows that you don't have any ties to Ghana. You are already planning to leave, and that's a red flag. So keep that under wraps. How much does zero travel history play into the approval process? I'd say that just being able to communicate, it depends on how you communicate it, right? If your business has kept you in Ghana or in Nigeria so strong that, oh, I'm such someone that I'm never able to travel because this is so important to me, and now I'm just traveling for the MBA and return. It's how you communicate the matter, right? Make lemonades out of lemons, and make it work for you rather than work against you, right? So, yeah. What does family position play in visa interview process? All right. As the first child of 5 children, 4 of my siblings are already in university and college. How do I deliver a strong case? My father, knowing that it might be something of concern to why this is. Again, it's how you communicate the story, right? Are they in the university in the US or in Nigeria? I imagine that they're in the university in Nigeria. Oh, I'm trying to grow my career to ensure that I take care of my younger ones. It's actually a strong home tie if all your younger ones are in Nigeria. If they're all in the US, it's a different story. We can talk about that at another time. Well, long beyond our time, but it's how you tell the story. If I already lived abroad, where would be the best place to reference as return location? I already answered this question earlier, so does it matter if personal savings are low? If a person gets full funded scholarship, and it doesn't matter if you get full funded scholarship, like that's good for you. Again, you still look. I've seen people have full funded scholarship and still get denied many times. You must be able to communicate your story. How did you get the full funding? Why does it matter? Why are you out there, and why will you return? This person said, Segun Ashaolu, that might still be him. I don't believe that is the Segun Ashaolu I know. If he's the one, he would have come off mute. He would have said something embarrassing about me or something, Everybody has a past. I was also a naughty boy in high school, so yeah. My passport expires next year. Would that be a problem? As long as you have 6 months validity on your passport, you're good to go. So I don't think that's a problem. The only problem you'll be thinking about is how do you renew it while you're in the United States? My sister's husband is in the US for school. Should I disclose that? He's not your family member. He's not your family member. I already mentioned it that your family is your father, mother, sister, brother, immediate siblings. He's not your family member, please. Eunice, do they ask for your resume? Absolutely no. They don't ask for the resume itself, but they might ask you something around, what do you do? What have you done? Blah, blah, blah. You must have your resume mentally. So again, we've come to the end of this session. For these visa sessions, access to information is key. Many people get it wrong because they leverage the wrong information. We also try to, ensure that we maintain a balance between what we know and what we are seeing unfolding, and to continue to communicate that to people. So for those of you that are going to business school together, and they are going to be getting the visa process together, there's a lot of videos, a lot of tips on our Instagram at MBA LEAD54. And that's the same name on all our platforms. If TikTok works for you, that's what we have on TikTok as well. Now, we also have a Spotify channel, which is MBA LEAD54. You can go on there and listen to everything. If you're still in the process of interviewing, we have resources there. If you're still you're thinking about the visa interviews, we have talked about many stories on our page that if you watch it all, you probably are at a better position than not watching it. So please take some time, watch it, share with other people. Our goal is to ensure that many of you get in. When you get in, that's our success. So we can claim that, we're doing more. Last year, we were able to put also our discounts. Eniola, if you can put the flyer in the chat, that would be nice, so that people can understand how to ask for flights and flight discounts and also hotel discounts. We have all of those. So please leverage them and ensure that you're getting discounts as much as possible. A lot of people will be flying back and forth this year. So, we have some of the major airlines aligning with us. We have ValueJet, we have Arik on board, we have Airpeace in conversations, we have Aero talking to us, and some of the top hotels as well are speaking with us. So please, and this is available year round, not just for your visas, right? Year round. And this is like value for you to be a member of our community. So if you're a member of our community, you can leverage these discounts for flights and hotels for yourself, your friends, and your family members. So that will be all. I think there is one more question here that I'm going to touch and I'm done. Please, we have not received the loan application link. It is now on the group chat, please. It is on the chats. The loan application link is on the chat. There is also an image on the chat that you need to download to help you see how to reach out for your flights and hotels. Please take down this link and the picture before we end the webinar. This concludes our webinar for today. You will continue to see more from us. You will continue to hear from us. You will continue to see us put all the data together and make informed decisions and give you tips. Remember that anything you hear here, you must personalize it. Remember as well that when people share their stories with you, take it with a pinch of salt, because either they are not even sure why they were denied or why they were approved, or they're just not telling you everything. Your journey is unique and different. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Reach out to us with your questions in our DMs and ensure that you join the community today. There's a lot more value coming. We're very close to landing our international airline partnerships to ensure that even when you're flying out to the US, you have all those discounts and all of the things that you will need as you move in that space should be made available shortly. So please ensure that you take that down. Also, the advice that I've given you today is not legal advice. Please. It is not legal advice. I'm just saying. All right. Thank you very, very much, everyone, and have a wonderful evening. Have a great week ahead. Bye now. Look out for us in your emails. We would email you as often as possible. If we got to reach out to you urgently, it will be via emails. Everyone will receive the emails. Thank you.